Okay, everybody. Well, first of all, to everybody at PS20, thank you. What an amazing school, can I just tell you? You have a great place here. We're all, I think, for all of us who've come in here, we're having like a beautiful experience to see the love and the care the people in this school put into making sure our kids have good meals, healthy meals, nutritious meals, and we know what a difference that makes for learning. We know that a child who has had a good meal to eat is able to learn, and a child who hasn't had a good meal to eat cannot learn. It's as simple as that. And what we're seeing here today is an example of something we're very proud of in this city, that children get free breakfast and free lunch and free after-school meals, and those are available to all children, and it makes a huge, huge difference. And the kids here knew that everyone had the same right. There was no stigma, there was no separation. Every child was there participating together, sharing together, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It is also clear for us, and we were talking and really appreciate, you're going to hear from Rachael Ray and Tom Colicchio in a moment, and I think Bill Telepan's here. We have some wonderful, wonderful luminaries from the food world. And we were all looking at this food and thinking like, wow, we never had anything like this when we were in school. It's like a whole nother world of what's being provided today, and it works. And the fact that our kids are part of it. They literally are helping the adults to know what they want to eat, what they're really going to eat, and it's working. And so something very good is happening here. We're here to talk about something that's not so good, but I wanted to start with the positive, that when it's done the right way, kids are only too happy to eat healthy, nutritious food. And that's what we got to make sure keeps happening here and all around the country. Now, in addition to our chefs, I want to thank members of my team who are here. We're going to hear from the Chancellor for a moment, but I also want to thank our new Director for Food Policy, who spent a lot of time focused on making sure that people have food security and get what they need. Kate McKenzie, welcome to our team. Thank you to the elected officials who are here. Borough President Gail Brewer and State Senator Brian Kavanaugh, thank you. And the extraordinary organizations that make sure that people get food who need it in New York and fight for the right to food. I'm going to tell you all the names and clap for all of them. City Harvest, thank you. Community Food Advocates, CUNY Urban Food Policy Institute, Wellness in the Schools, Hunger Free America, doesn't that say it all? Food Bank NYC. And I thank the school. I also want to thank the leader of the school, the principal, Sarah Pinto. Thank you. I'm going to be really quick. So what you just saw is what happens every day here in New York City. A child needs food, they get food. That should be the standard in the United States of America. It is not. Let's be clear. All over this country, there are schools that kids go to and they don't get the food they need and they can't afford it, their families can't afford it, or if they get food, they get it with a stigma attached. And we've got 1 in 6 kids in America who go hungry part of each day or all day. And that should never be happening in this country. So that's a problem. That's been a problem for years. But instead of fixing the problem, what is the federal government doing? What's the Trump administration doing as we speak? Are they working to figure out how to get food to the next child and the next child and the next child? No, they're doing the exact opposite. They are now threatening to cut food stamps for 1 million children across the United States of America. 1 million kids would have less food at home, less food at school, they'd be less healthy, they'd be less able to learn. This would affect 21,000 children here in New York City. And I want to make this very real for you, that if you hear the Trump administration say, oh, we're only taking money away from people who are doing fine, let me tell you what they're going to do here. Taking away SNAP, taking away food stamps from a family of 3 making $28,000 a year. So think about a family of 3 in New York City making $28,000. That family is struggling. They are barely above the poverty level. And now one of the things that allows them to put food on the table would be taken away from them. That is literally cruelty. And that is the new rule that has been proposed by the Trump administration. So I get angry when I hear that. To me, that is just literally robbing food out of the mouths of children. That's unacceptable. And this is not something we would ever allow here, because we don't want our kids wondering when can they get their next meal. We don't want our kids struggling. We don't want families unable to provide. That's not our family values. So what we think is, if you feed children the right way, they will learn. If you give them every opportunity to learn, they will reach their potential. And you can't achieve everything else if a child's hungry. We have worked to make sure that there's free, healthy meals for all, and then that connects to the fact that we're giving pre-K to all kids for free, and soon 3K. And then we see, when you make these investments in kids, it actually pays off. Our test scores are going up, our graduation rate is going up. We are narrowing the achievement gap, and let's be blunt, that achievement gap was always based on economics. And the more we're leveling the playing field, the better kids are doing. So we have a chance right now in these next days to make our voices heard, to tell the Trump administration, do not take food out of the mouths of children. We have a chance to turn back this horrible new rule. But if the Trump administration persists in trying to take away SNAP benefits, trying to take food away from families that need it, then here's my message to the president. We will see you in court. And I want to tell you, when the city of New York has challenged Donald Trump in court, we usually win. So we look forward to beating him again if it comes to that. Just a few words in Spanish. Si el presidente intenta cortar la asistencia alimentaria, nos veremos en la corte. Cada estudiante debe recibir comidas gratis y saludables. No permitiremos que nadie nos impida darle a los estudiantes lo que necesitan. We will not ever let anyone take away from our kids what they need. Now I get the great pleasure turning to two folks who just are extraordinary in what they have done. Some people have celebrity and they keep it for themselves. Other people take their celebrity and share it for the good of all. So I'm going to start with Rachael Ray. I know she's on a tight schedule today and may have to leave soon, but prolific is the word. Rachael has done so much teaching America how to cook, an author, an Emmy Award winner, so many things you could say, and a New Yorker who cares deeply about kids, and her nonprofit, Yummo, focuses on kids' nutrition. So I think, Rachael, I can say that when you believe in something, it's a matter of passion. And this is passionate for you. Let's all thank Rachael for standing up for our kids.
Oh, thank you. I was really doing the math sitting there. I'm glad there's a hidden footstool in this thing. Good morning. So, people ask me often, why do I come out and lobby for better school nutrition when I don't have any human children? I have a pit bull, not a little girl. I lobby for better school food because I'm an American, and it affects so many things. It affects future healthcare costs. It affects the attendance and the endurance and the quality of the next generation of people that are going to be running our country and our lives, our neighbors. America's children are just that. We are responsible for all of them. And I think that school food is the only avenue that we can address so many issues for children. Their health, their welfare, and their ability to learn, all of that is about access to good nutrition, and I think they should have that access as American children 12 months a year, that they should be food secure, period. I find it incredible that this is not a bipartisan, wildly supported issue to improve our SNAP and assistance programs. It's good for farmers. It's good for retailers. It's good for the community. It lowers healthcare costs, on and on and on. It is so tangential to everything. I don't understand how we are still discussing this to the point of being hoarse decades in. Since day one of our brand launching, pot number one, we have used our business model as a way to raise funds for our children's initiative. It's little kids used to say Rachael Ray Yummo, so we called it Yummo. But basically it has 3 layers to it. We want to improve general nutrition for kids, and that's where we spend our dollars lobbying, coming out to events like this, and trying to improve our school food programs nationwide. We use a third of our dollars to send kids that are public school children to any food-related program they like to, through our scholarships that we do through the National Restaurant Association. And then we spend about a third of our money just relieving hunger and being there during natural disasters. I would love if we could narrow that down to just having to be a net, a safety net for natural disaster. We should not have to spend dollars fighting to feed children in our schools. It's an embarrassment. I feel extremely strongly about this, and I think it's until Friday, right, Joel, that the public can put their opinion in on stopping this executive order? HungerFreeAmerica.org? Yes. HungerFreeAmerica.org, everyone has a voice in this, and I tell people all the time, every single person in this country can change this country. Let your voice be heard. And if we lose more funds, find private funds and do it yourselves. We just had a community on the other day where the school partnered with private businesses, and they send children home every weekend with rescued food in green knapsacks so that they have hunger security until they can come back to school on Monday morning. It's a beautiful thing. So if they keep taking it away from us, we will fight and do it ourselves. But we can let our voices be heard. Between now and Friday, is there anything more important to do? That's why I stopped here today. Thank you to Mayor de Blasio for securing food here in New York City. It's beautiful to see happy, well-fed children, and I loved my burrito bowl. It was a delicious and nutritious breakfast. I now need a nap, as I was joking with Tom, because I'm not used to eating breakfast. But it's wonderful to be here today and have the opportunity to speak about it. It's also terrible to be here today because we shouldn't have to be. That's all I got.
So we're back there with the folks who work in food services here, and the really good people at this school and so many other schools who really, really care to make sure kids have good food. And, they're passing around the food for each of us to sample. I don't think they quite took in that they were handing food to the head judge of Top Chef. So, because that would have been a little intimidating. But Tom Colicchio is someone that has just done so much good. His restaurants are amazing. But boy, what an incessant, powerful voice for addressing hunger and making sure everyone understands it's all of our fights. And I think Rachael just said something really powerful. No one should feel powerless in this one. Everyone has a chance to do something here. And that's the way Rachael's lived, and that's the way Tom has lived. And Tom, I know you've been just intensely involved with the food bank and City Harvest, and it has been a real labor of love for you. My honor to introduce Tom Colicchio.
Thank you. I think I need this thing over here. There we go. There we go. I feel tall now. So around 5 or 6 years ago, my wife, I get a little bit of credit, but my wife should get the credit for making a film called A Place at the Table. It was about hunger in America. At the time, around 60 million families were struggling to put food on the table. And that gave me a soapbox to go around and talk about this issue. And one thing that I found out was that hunger doesn't know boundaries. There's hunger here in cities. There's hunger in rural areas as well. There's hunger in farm country. Hunger is non-denominational. It doesn't care what religion you adhere to. Jewish people are affected, Christians are affected, Muslims are affected, atheists are affected. We're all affected. Hunger doesn't care where you live. There is hunger in every county in this country. Let that sink in. Every county in this country. It doesn't care what political affiliation you have. There are Democrats that are hungry. There are Republicans that are hungry. I'm sure there are libertarians that are hungry too, whatever that is. And so this is an American problem. This isn't just a problem that we have in the inner city. And so President Trump, if he feels going to a World Series game and getting booed makes you feel bad, I want to see the shame on his face when he knows that he's taken food away from children. I want to know how he feels when he takes food away from seniors, from veterans, from people who will vote for him, and people who won't. Because that's the real shame in this country, that so many people go without food, especially when people aren't going hungry because of famine, because of drought, because of war. We are going hungry, people are going hungry in this country because we do not have the political will to feed everyone. It's a basic right, like water is, like air is. They do a pretty lousy job on water and air too, but for another day. So why is it important that people are well-fed and well-nourished? Now, I'm a liberal, and so my knee-jerk reaction is to make sure that people are well-fed because I think it's the right thing to do. But let's put that aside for a second. If we want our children to reach their fullest potential, we send them to school, we want them to learn. We tell them that education is the key. They cannot learn if they're hungry. So nutrition is the key to education. And the reason that we believe this is because the children are the future in this country. And if our children are not living up to their potential, they are not going to be able to give back. And that's what actually makes this country great. When all of us can contribute to society, when all of us could do something that feels meaningful. And the only way our children can reach that potential, that ability to give back, that ability to be part of the fabric of this country, is to be well-nourished now. And so breakfast programs, lunch programs, they are essential to making sure that we have a strong country in the future. This is probably one of the most important things that we can do. A kid who comes to school hungry, not only aren't they going to learn, they're going to act up. They're going to probably be labeled a bad kid. And when you're labeled a bad kid, guess what? You're the bad kid. And if you're the bad kid because you're hungry, that's not acceptable. And so we do a great job here in the city. I thank the mayor for the work that he's doing. I mean, just coming out and lending your voice to something that is so essential means that your priorities are in the right place. And we need more of that. And so what we really need, though, people want to know, what can they do? And yes, you can volunteer at soup kitchens, but what you really can do, use your voice. We have to let our leaders in this country know that this is important. Children need to speak up too. I want to see, if you can get a letter writing campaign right now, from Friday's the deadline, I want to see children sort of start addressing this issue, because they need to learn how to be activists early on. They can start speaking up for themselves, then we can start changing the world. So anyway, thanks for inviting me to say a few words here. Again, this is one of the most important things that we can do. And so I'm glad to see that in New York City we're doing a great job. But again, we got to make sure that the people in Washington hear this. There also is a new CNR, the Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act, which sort of deals with school lunch. We need to make sure that we're not okay with just holding the line, because that's what we hear too often. Let's do no harm. Let's make sure everything's okay. No, we want more. We want more money for school lunch. In fact, I want to see free school lunch across the country. That would be great, because then the money that they have to go to try to figure out. My mother ran a school lunch program. So this is kind of why I'm passionate about this. So when we say school lunch wasn't great back then, I can't say that because my mother was actually making lunch for me. But too much of the money that we actually send into the schools for food goes to administration costs to try to figure out who gets a free meal, who gets a reduced meal, and who gets a free ride. And then when the kids run short of money, we're shaming them. This has got to stop. And so it doesn't happen here in New York because we have community eligibility here. That doesn't happen here, but it's happening around the country. And we got to use our voice to stop this. But we really need to make sure this new CNR that's coming through, that we want more. We don't want to just hold the line. Thank you.
Tom, that was beautiful, and your mom would be proud. You learned great lessons there. So this whole point of how we actually move forward, not just hold the line, I think Tom's making such an important point, how we actually help our kids to learn and not nickel and dime our future. This really summarizes a lot of what Richard Carranza spent his whole life working on. And when he thinks about the food that we were just eating there, he's thinking immediately about what it means for the development of our children and their minds, because he sees how all these pieces connected. So it's my honor to introduce our Chancellor, Richard Carranza.
Talk about needing the step. So thank you. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you. I also want to thank, we're a little starstruck because Rachael Ray and Tom Colicchio are here, so thank you very much for your voices. I also want to thank Joel Berg for being a loud voice for equity for our children, and thank you for that. But I again want to give a shout out to the principal, the boss here at this school, Sarah Pinto, who makes sure that her students are well fed every day. And I also want to thank Chris Tricarico, who is our Executive Director of Student Nutrition. I don't know if you know this, but we changed the name of the department from school food, blah, what's that, to student nutrition, because that's what it's about. And one of the unsung heroes, one of our colleagues who makes sure that the school nutrition and what children eat every day are of a high quality. The students call her Miss Romina, but she's Romina Moore, who is our kitchen manager, and her colleagues. Thank you for serving us some great food. So I'm going to keep it short. As the pedagogue of the speakers in the group here, my focus has always been about teaching and learning and good instruction. So let me put this very clear. The story, the evidence is clear. It goes all the way back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that says that students cannot learn if they don't feel safe and secure. And part of being safe and secure is being well fed. You cannot learn if you're hungry. And unfortunately, as our speakers have already said, in America, but not in America, right here in New York City, this world-class foodie city, there are neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs in which children are hungry. And but for the food they receive in their school, that is what they will eat as a nutritious meal. So this isn't a matter of more, which I agree, we need more. This is a matter of social justice for our children. And if you don't think it's important, I have now served in 5 large urban school systems, from San Francisco on the West Coast to Houston in the middle of the country, and now I found Mecca, New York City, on the East Coast. But I will tell you one thing that has always been true, and it echoes what Chef Colicchio has said. There are hungry children in hungry communities across this country, and this is America. And if you don't think it's important in New York City, just consider that the 1.1 million students that are in our classrooms today represent 1 out of 300 Americans. That's right. 1 out of 300 Americans is sitting in a classroom in New York City. So this is an issue that's not only important to us in New York City, but for the entire country as well. So I join with my mayor, our mayor, Mayor de Blasio, in opposing these changes to the SNAP program. And we will fight. We will do the letter campaign. We will fight to make sure that our children and our students' parents' voices are heard in this important discussion. Unas palabritas en español, por favor. Quiero asegurarles y darles gracias a todos los que están aquí, que están prestando su voz para asegurar que los derechos de nuestros estudiantes, especialmente que tenga que ver con la nutrición para nuestros estudiantes en nuestras escuelas, no sean negados. Y hay propuestas a nivel federal que le van a quitar, literalmente le van a quitar comida de las bocas de nuestros estudiantes. Es inaceptable y aquí en Nueva York vamos a pelear para estar seguros con las voces de nuestros compañeros, asegurar que nuestros niños tengan el alimento a diario para poder tener éxito en los salones de nuestras escuelas. Muchísimas gracias y estamos de acuerdo con nuestro alcalde en pelear estos cambios. Thank you very much.
We have one more speaker, and as I turn to Joel, I want to just first thank someone who's really played an important role in all this. As the chair of the General Welfare Committee in the City Council, Councilmember Steve Levin, he is been a powerful voice for increasing food security all over this city, and thank you, Steve, for the work you've done. Now, as I introduce Joel, just a point, you know, Joel runs Hunger Free America. And I'm reminded, just as I was thinking, introducing him, we know each other a long time, he's done amazing work, but I was thinking, like, we have to have an organization called Hunger Free America. And it just flashed me back to, it was 50 years ago. Bobby Kennedy famously went to Appalachia and the Mississippi Delta and shone a light on the problem of hunger and poverty in America. I'm not here to be depressing and say, how is it possible a half century later that we are still fighting this fight? Because I do want to emphasize change is happening. You saw it back there in that cafeteria. Here's the biggest city in the country. Every child gets their meals for free. Change can happen. But as we are literally in this week where this fight is raging in Washington over a proposal to take us backwards, we got to remember if there's any hunger anywhere, we are not fulfilling our American dream. It's as simple as that. And someone who has been a clarion call and a tremendous, tireless advocate can speak to it better than me. CEO of Hunger Free America, Joel Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me to give a 5-hour lecture on the year-by-year history of the Nutrition Assistance Program since 1939. Go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for speaking out on this issue and particularly for transforming access to the safety net in New York City for the cynical people in the press corps, the political establishment, or just regular citizens who think nothing matters. The Human Resource Administration under the previous 2 mayors went to every length to keep food away from people. The Human Resource Administration under this mayor, it's not perfect, but they're going to great lengths to get people help. That's a radical and welcome transformation. Thank my friends Tom and Rachael for this vital work and for using their voice and their faces and their bodies and everything else to speak up and for generously donating their time and resources to this fight. Look, we know, and the chancellor knows, the mayor knows, for schools to succeed, students must be well nourished. To be well read, you must be well fed. To be schooled, you must be fueled. So not only would be taking away school meals from low-income children increase hunger, it will reduce educational performance, and taking away SNAP from families and bodegas and corner stores would devastate the economy of New York City. Nearly 1 in 10 food dollars in New York City are spent through the SNAP program. So doing this is a lose-lose-lose position, and I call all Americans and all New Yorkers to fight back. Thank you. And below 2 minutes.
As we conclude, I think we just saw Joel Berg channel his inner Muhammad Ali. So let's do that again. You can't get schooled unless
you're fueled.
You can't get schooled unless you're fueled.
Amen.
That's pretty good. And the other one was,
Be well read, you must be well fed.
be well read, you must be well fed. This is an amazing moment. Okay, everyone. Yeah, right. I see T-shirts in the making. You know, right? Big. I see the creative process here. It's all happening. Again, everyone, thank you for standing up for our kids. Rachel, Tom, God bless you both. It's absolutely amazing what you do all the time. Let's stop this horrible new plan in Washington dead in its tracks, and let's make sure our kids get the food they need. Thank you, everybody.